Welcome, everyone. We are part of the Essex Startups team at the University of Essex in the UK. And obviously today we are talking all about developing entrepreneurial workshops. James is going to share his screen. And there we go. Do you want to put it in power? Yeah, cool. Yeah, so like I said, we're going to introduce ourselves quickly in a second, but we are talking about the workshop and how, or like entrepreneurial workshops, how we're developing our strategy, our plan for the year, the academic year ahead, and how we want to create a powerful student experience. Yeah. So this is our Essex Startups team. So we are called the Essex Startups team. We are part of the university, like I said, of the Research and Enterprise Office. We have Andy Mew, who's our head of startup. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, but you will see him, I believe, next week for the session. So you will see his face in real time then. We have Alexa Gordon, who's our enterprise officer. And then we have Christian, who's our enterprise assistant. And then we have two entrepreneurs in residence. And with that comes, so that's myself, Magdalena, and obviously James, who will introduce himself in a second as well. We are both entrepreneurs in residence because we both are running our own businesses, and we are part of the Essex Startups team. Just a little bit about, oh, I have another person coming in. Just a little bit about myself. So I'm Magdalena. I'm half German, half Arabic, and I live in the UK though, and I've been starting my own business back in 2013. I've been a wedding photographer for 7 years. I'm transitioning out of that, working for the university now and helping other students realizing their dreams and becoming their own boss. Equally on the, I'm also part of a startup actually with James, funnily enough. So he will probably talk about that in a second as well when he talks about his background. But we are very much in our own startup shoes right now and have the startup head on ourselves, which is quite fun and exciting. But overall, the entire team, which is really fun and I think is quite a nice, I wouldn't say it's crucial, but it is a good background to have, is that all of us in the team have either run their own businesses, have a partner who runs their own business, or are currently building their own businesses. So we all have hands-on experience in being a startup ourselves at one point or another. And now over to James to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much indeed, Magda. So my name is James Cracknell. I've been involved with the university, I guess, on and off for the last 4.5, 5 years. Working with them in regard to their iTeens programs, which is a challenge-based program, and then very much involved in the transition from a startup program, which was very much focused around games industry, into something which is much broader when the university developed its innovation center. So that's when the Essex Startup stuff got really off the ground, and we developed a program going back there. My background, I started out in travel and tourism way back in the late 70s, early 80s, and then moved into finance and spent 28 years working up in London, but developing businesses locally as well, with my wife and with a number of other people, primarily different spectrums, but they could be anything from the retail sector right the way through to social enterprises, developing a cooperative, franchise business, that kind of stuff. So I've been really invested in business and growing businesses and driving businesses forward. And so working with the students and working with the Essex Startup team has been a real joy in terms of what it does, in terms of helping students to develop and grow really important skills and to be really comfortable and confident about their future. So we think of this as very much about how we develop their businesses and how we develop them individually, so that they become more employable and they themselves bring a whole new layer of, if you like, drive and energy into what they do. So that's me. So I'll just hand back over to Magda now.
Yeah, perfect. So we've obviously wanted to tell you a little bit about how we are creating our program and how we are building our program. And we always start with really the end in mind, because the end in mind is to, when students come to us, that sometimes they have an idea, but sometimes they actually don't. They just know they want to become an entrepreneur or want to do something to start a business. So we build this arc of student learning really throughout the entire program that we run, but also throughout every single session almost, because it's an ongoing, ever living, forever living, developing mechanism really. But if we just take it linear for a second, we get the students in, whether that is, we have newsletter channels, we engage with the other academic departments, and I think that's going to be a topic for one of the future 2 sessions, how to engage the university or throughout the university. But we have different channels that we try to attract students into coming to us. Sometimes they find us on random journeys, which is really exciting to see that how they come to us. But when they do come to us, we have a plethora of workshops that we run throughout the year, but they all start almost with the new semester. We've built this program last year and have learned a lot on that side of how this arch was working. We usually start with a big weekender, a really fun workshops all about idea creation, to really hone, like, even if you have an idea, your idea might just be a spark, you don't know how to work with that idea yet, but a lot of people also don't have ideas yet. So we're using this idea creation weekender to really get people in to have them all in the same playing field, if that makes sense. And then we kind of work through different mechanisms and different tools. Like, we use the business model canvas, and James will talk about that in a second. But the business model canvas, if you know that tool, it's such a valuable tool. We use it for everything. Initially, we use it to help the students gain clarity, to kind of like use it as a brain dump tool. And then we kind of refine it and redo it over and over again with them, that in that sense, they refine the narrative in that business model. We take them through, so we do workshops around the business model canvas in itself as well, but the business model canvas is almost featured within every single workshop. Within every single workshop as well. So, but the next big thing would be the research, because every idea needs to be validated. Every idea needs to see, you need to see whether there is a demand on the market, obviously, and whether you have enough customer. Is there enough of a market? Or are you too niche? Are you, whatever. You need to kind of find also your competitors. You need to understand the market landscape, really. And for that, we do separate workshops as well. So we have a whole workshop just around market research and competitor analysis, and also where would you fit in the market? So if you think of the positioning map, where would you fit? And that research is really the foundation of any kind of business idea, to really understand what's out there, how would your business fit into that. And then we have tools and workshops where we help you build your business. So again, we use the business model canvas throughout all this. So the next, workshops would be around, could be marketing already. It could be about your customer, very much about customer-centric focus, learning about your customer, and really continuously building. And like we said before, it's almost an ever-living, ever evolving journey. So you always go back. So if you have a new idea along this journey, and you're going to redefine your business model canvas, but also you might need to do a little bit more research into a certain sector, and then you go back into building the business. The same when you come to the planning, you might go back into research again, or into building. So you're always refining with the students. And I think our workshop structures, or the program structure in itself, is that we have shorter workshops. We have like learning intensive workshops that are supporting our bigger workshops. We have 4-hour workshops, but then we have also these 4, I think throughout the year, spread out 4 or 5 different whole weekenders, where they're literally, that's very intense on a specific. So we have idea creation, like I said before, we have startup weekend just before Christmas, where we really build that business, and it's more about that research and the building side of things. And then we have the marketing and branding business workshop weekend, where we really talk about your marketing strategy, your branding, and it gets into that nitty-gritty already, so you know your customer by then, hopefully. You know all these things, and you really start planning your business more. And then finally we have a big boot camp, which is summer boot camp, which the topics are always different. Sometimes, like this year, we've done it in financial, a lot of about finances, because obviously that's very important and they need to learn that too. At the end of all of this process, we want them to be able to pitch, to showcase. We have pitching workshops or pitching activities spread out, so they always learn to test their idea, at an audience, in front of an audience. They might not win, but they at least went through that process of pitching. We train them on how to pitch in front of investors, but some people don't need an investor. They might just need an elevator pitch, a 90-second elevator pitch, where they go into a networking room and just be able to articulate what their business is all about. And those things, so that's kind of how we build the student learning and use it as a journey. And each step is a milestone. They kind of reach and go forth, but like I said, they might go back at one step or two steps and then redo and redefine their business. And then hopefully at the end of this process, whenever that end is, whether they're not necessarily when they graduate, because we have a lot of graduates still working with us. We support the students up to 3 years after graduation. So people still come to us, whether they've worked with us as a student or maybe just, had an idea as a graduate and then come to us. So, but at the end of that process, they are ready to go, really, hopefully. Always, yeah, so the next slide, we just wanted to show you a example of a weekender agenda. So this one we took from our idea creation weekender that we did back in October last year. And you will see that we're trying to have fun and engaging activities throughout all this. I mean, it would be very dry to run workshops that are just learning like in a classroom style. So what we try to do is not just have it in a classroom style. We limit us talking to the students to maybe 20, maybe 30 minutes maximum, and then they break out and then they have some fun activity to do. And in those breakout sessions, they get to work in teams or they get to work on their own. It really depends on what kind of workshop. In this one, we just randomly assigned them to teams, and then they were able to, work. Initially, we start every day of a weekender, for example. We start with an icebreaker. So in this one, it was the game called Top Trumps, but we've used different icebreaker challenges before. But an icebreaker is really nice to get everybody comfortable with us, comfortable with each other, and just, arrive in the room. Then, for example, in this particular weekend, we did an extra activity that was called Pack Types, where you are learning about yourself really and about your values, and it's a little bit more self-development, because in an idea creation weekend you want to get them to understand their own values and to understand themselves in order to generate ideas and be creative. And then in the end, we had, for example, the spaghetti and marshmallow challenge, which was a really, really fun challenge. And it really promoted you. So you had to be in teams again, and you had to build a tower of spaghetti strips, dry spaghetti and marshmallows at the end. And it needed to be a structure as tall as possible and as stable as possible. And then you got competing against the other teams. And that in itself was such a fun challenge and such a funny success and activity that they learned about communication skills. They learned about creative problem solving. They really learned about how to form a team effectively in by that one single activity. But as you can see, we are always trying to be fun and engaging in our activities and in our workshops, and always have enough breaks, have enough breakout sessions. So we're not rushing things. We really let them also, sink it in. This is obviously an offline, like a face-to-face kind of workshop, but we will come talk about online in a second. Over to you, James.
Okay, thank you. So when we design workshops, we tend to try to instill a reflective model in the process. So even at the weekenders, doing those particular events, doing those challenges gives the student an opportunity to understand what they're really trying to learn. So I think it's really important that when you're designing workshops, that you have a kind of a core set of values that you embed within them. And in this particular example, we spent a lot of time collectively as a team designing and thinking about the way we want these workshops to impact people in terms of the learning outcomes that they're striving towards. It's important to have tools. It's important to be able to utilize those visual aids and visual tools, whether it's games or whether it's actually, it could even be something as like a YouTube video that people can engage with, or just simply the business model canvas or a canvas of some description that people can use as the foundation to create brainstorming environments, to drum up ideas and to look and focus upon the quantity of output that they're really sort of kind of delivering. Facilitated sessions is something that really matters, because it's important that they get absorbed by the process. And I think a good facilitated session is about engagement. It's about challenge. It's about getting the right questions in front of the audience so that it opens up their thinking and gives them the opportunity to understand that there are no right or wrong answers in the business, in the development of a business. It's always an emergent process. It's a very personal process, but there are roads and journeys that all of us have traveled, and that's an important part. And it's our chance also within the design of these workshops that we allow that moment to come for feedback, so that there is a dialogue that we're creating between ourselves as facilitators and mentors, but also to work with the students in so that they get the most out of that reflective piece as well. So that's the kind of the core values that we adhere to when we design, develop and deliver those kind of workshops. I think it works exceptionally well in this particular environment. So don't know how much you know about the business model canvas. You know, if you do, and if you use it regularly, you know and understand the real value of that. But in essence, it's a tool that was designed by two guys, Alex Osterwalder and Yves Pignou, and it's used increasingly more and more when it comes to actually visualizing and talking about the component aspects of a business. And I think the strength of the business model canvas is not the fact that it's 9 building blocks that people can see, recognize and understand, but it's the way that we get the students within the environment and within those workshops to start to think about how each of these component parts interrelate with each other. So if you think of this as the arc of what we're about, each of those milestones, those outputs within the arc, they reflect potentially also back onto the canvas. So when we're talking about the key, if you like, the building of the business, it's about who our partners are, the activities within the business, the resources that we need to get the business off the ground. And I think when we're constantly using the canvas to home and develop those particular ideas for the students, they become familiar with it as a tool. And it's also a tool that we use when we get the students to pitch. So often when we're working with, say, international students, one of the things that we ask international students to do with us when they go through the visa process is present some form of canvas that outlines their business idea, that meets or matches the requirements of our home office, that it's scalable, that it's innovative, that it's a sustainable business in that respect. So I think that the canvas has that real element of bringing the workshops and the delivery together, because we can superimpose, we can place on the outputs onto that particular canvas. So our values are very much around design thinking, and that stems very much from the point of view of making everything customer centric. And we always say to the students, and we always work with them through our workshops, is about being reflective about, we may be designing something, but let's stand in our customers' shoes. And I think that this is again something which matters when you design workshops, is you're getting people to experience and to appreciate the empathy that they need when they develop and grow a business. And that's one of the kind of the core values and the core underlying approaches of what we're about. It's no good just simply having an idea and trying to validate it in a way that doesn't involve the customer. It's far better to have the ideas and then reflect and then think about it from an empathetic point of view, from putting ourselves and walking in the shoes of our customers. And I think that that's an approach that we very much embed within everything that we do within the workshop environment. And these are some of the tools on the canvas that we use that help us develop that idea of empathy, of understanding what the customer is, so that we can build better designs. One of the challenges that we have at the university is that we have a lot of very technically savvy individuals who come from the computer science department, that come from different other faculties, and they arrive with the next app or the next piece of technology or whatever it is. But getting them to recognize that it's great to have something which is a very valuable tool in itself, it's really of no value if no customer actually really wants that particular tool, if they're creating something and solving a problem that doesn't really exist. So we use these tools, the empathy map, the customer avatar, to work with the students through those workshop environments, so they understand that the tool that they are designing has a purpose and has something that they can deliver for their customers. I wanted to just bring this in because it may not appear that it's actually anything to do with a workshop, but actually workshops deliver to an audience, and inevitably what the outcome of the workshop produces is, how do I take what I've learned in the workshop and bring it back and make it relevant to my business? So when you're designing workshops, design time for one-to-one engagement, so that you can actually start to take the learning from the workshops and make it really pertinent and directly related to the issues that the student or the team of students are facing that are around their business. Perhaps one of the mistakes that we make in designing sort of kind of accelerator programs or curriculums or whatever is that we think that when we deliver something, they'll go away and that they'll take all that learning and embed it in what they're doing. But inevitably, there is always bits that they miss out. There's bits that they don't get, that they feel embarrassed potentially about opening up and saying in a group environment, I don't really understand what you're doing. So giving them the facility to come back in to an environment on a one-to-one or a team basis with a mentor, an entrepreneur in residence, with somebody like that, allows them to actually build on that learning from the workshop. So it's an important mini workshop. It's an important function of the overall delivery. So I hand over to Magda. You're on mute, Magda.
Just realized. Brilliant. Thank you, James. Yeah, and then overall, we wanted to also touch on the experience. So we have a very focus also on the student experience. So like I said before, it's not just a classroom, you know, someone is teaching and then the students are listening. We are very interactive, we're very engaging, and we're very, you know, we're very driven by creating that student experience and that experienced learning rather than, you know, classroom. So it's applied learning, if you want to say that like that. But our focus is also like on welcoming everybody, making them feel safe, making them that they can say things. And we do that, like we said, with either the workshops or like the one-to-one. Sometimes the first point of call they have with us is one-to-one with one of us or with one of the team. And then they join the workshops later. But overall, we wanted them always to feel safe, feel heard, have them, no, sorry, one more back. So have that welcoming experience and have it all fun and social and supportive, but also be very like celebrate diversity, celebrate, you know, that they meet each other, that they integrate or interact with each other, like they find like-minded people in this community. And but we also need to be aware of obviously their stresses and strains of their curriculum. So sometimes students work at their own pace. So we always say, and in the one-to-ones particularly, if they haven't come back after a certain amount of time, or sometimes they apologize, or I haven't done that much progress. But, you know, I always say to them, it's okay. It's your pace. I'm not on an agenda. I'm not rushing you through the process. This is at your pace. So I think that's very important as well to focus on. Yeah, thanks, Jane. There's a lack. There we go. But equally also what's important is to create a culture, to create a like an entrepreneurial culture, that they feel that safe space and feel creative and generate those ideas or innovative ways or innovative topics that they want to work in and get into. So we always, like I said, the fun and social aspect, I think, is quite big into incorporating that or creating that culture. We do challenge events, so that like James was saying, the iTeams or hackathons or even the weekenders are kind of challenge events. So the iTeam program, for example, is a really good example for a challenge event where we have 3 businesses coming in. They have like real life experienced businesses who are facing some sort of challenge, some sort of hurdle that they need to overcome. And then we have cohort of students, so groups of students that are assigned to that challenge and are working basically on finding a solution for that particular business challenge. But we facilitate that with you know, different topics that we teach them every week, or we talk with them every week and help them develop over the time. But by the end, they get to pitch in front of the business and really have their idea heard and potentially even implemented. Who knows? But it's just the process of the challenge events of the iTeam program is really effective because it's experienced learning, it's real life challenges. And, you know, it's a win-win situation for the business and the students as well, but it's also incorporating that culture and getting outside businesses into the university and students potentially, you know, who knows what happens afterwards. But those kind of events, they really, really help you in, or help the students in developing problem-solving skills and teamwork skills, communication skills. There's so many skills that they just learn from that 1 10-week program, for example. But overall, yeah, we always promote creativity within that as well. Thanks, James.
Yeah, okay. So it's one of the things that we wanted to point out. I know that one of the topics that we're going to talk about later on with you guys is very much about the engagement with the local community, but it is an important facet of how we make our workshop program diverse, how we make it valuable beyond the point of education for the students, because it ultimately drives and creates networks, and it's an educational process for our local region as well. In the terms of the businesses that engage with the university, they start to understand the value of different thinking, the value of the community and the university and what it offers. So when we're thinking about our workshops and we're looking at it, we look at ways that we can take the student journey and we can enhance it and augment it. And one of the things that we like to do is, for instance, showcasing businesses, running events, running award ceremonies, celebrating with the students and celebrating the learning and the challenges, and then bringing in the external support through mentoring programs, through extended networks. But another kind of important aspect is look towards your local business community for what they can deliver as independent workshops to the students. And what that does It brings diversity to the student, but it also brings that business to the university. It builds the relationship. It starts to create a coherent, a real dialogue between small businesses and businesses generally and with the university, creating opportunity and raising the value for everybody within that particular part. So we've done app development workshops with technology companies locally. So they've been 6 to 8 week development workshops where an external person has come in from a non-technical perspective, but talk to the students and to build a program with them where they can take their technology skills and develop something which is of value in terms of an app or a piece of technology. The other ones that we've done are marketing around social media, bringing the digital marketing agency to deliver, again, a 4 to 6 week program of how we build brands, how we develop social media challenges, how we work with the tools at their disposal. And that gives people, the students, a sense of what's real, what's absolutely. So, you know, what matters to them is this real? Is this tangible? Does it really work in the business world? And I think for us, the validation of that is both from, you know, Magda and ourselves, and plus the team as a whole who have real life business experiences, but it's also the sheer fact that we are out there in our communities, in our networks, and advocating for the university and working to bring those skills directly back into the local community or back into the students. So that's an important part, again, of the design process around workshops, is mixing it up. You can deliver it. It's great that it's facilitated learning from the point of view of the team, and it's good in that respect, but look beyond the boundary of where you are, look beyond that area and step into your local business community and start to understand that there are relationships there that can be really enhanced and developed by getting the experts externally to deliver either mentoring or training directly to the students.
Yeah, and then last but not least, we also obviously wanted to touch upon our current situation in the world, where everything had to quickly adapt and move online. We always had online delivery in mind, but we haven't really haven't incorporated as much as we do now, obviously. But because of COVID, we had to quickly adapt and deliver our last few of that semester, of the spring semester. I think spring and summer semester, we had to deliver online. And we found, though, that there are ways to adapt, and there are ways to still have that interactive games or sort of gamification within your workshops that we talked about. Yes, you might not be doing a physical, you know, spaghetti and marshmallow challenge, but we still did it in a way that they individually got tasks to do. We did loads of breakout sessions. So we had breakout rooms of Zoom. So we utilized the technology around us. And in this case, it was Zoom. And we put the students into Zoom rooms or like breakout rooms, and always had one of us join each room and then facilitate some kind of discussions, some kind of fun brainstorming activities and things like that. So you can still adapt somehow, like not everything can be like equal adaptation, but you can adapt to an online environment with games still in the same way or similar way, like we develop our workshops when they're face to face. So you have to be really flexible and keep that in mind when you're building a program or your workshop program. That just pivot your thinking, change your thinking just a little bit, your mindset of, okay, what kind of online games could we potentially do that foster and that engagement with the students. Obviously the one-to-ones were really easy to adapt to Zoom, because that was like the easiest ever you could be doing and adapting to. Every student has, you know, hopefully the internet connection, and hopefully the computer, but most of them have, and so that was really easy to adapt to. However, there are also advantages of obviously being online, and some of them are that you can really record your sessions, your workshops, put them on YouTube or put them somewhere in your internal infrastructure, that you can create a resource library for the students. So we are building our YouTube channel at the moment, not so much obviously as a YouTube channel is intended to, you know, as a marketing tool in that sense, but we use it as a resource library. So we have a lot of webinars that that we hold, not just to students, but also to other entrepreneurs and investors. And it's just really, yeah, like I said, a library of videos. You know, if you want to sit there, obviously, and watch 2-hour workshops online, that's up to the student or up to the person who wants it, but it's there. And it's something that, you know, is really important as well. And that's quite an advantage to online training for, I think, in that sense as well. But I think it's always good to be, so we are planning, for example, the next semester. So in October, our new semester starts, and up to December, we are going to hold everything online for now, until we know, obviously, further notice, hopefully, what's going to happen next year. So, you know, you have to be flexible in that. Right. With that, though, now it's enough talking about from us. We wanted to open the floor, and I should have mentioned this in the beginning. If you have any questions, you can either put them in the chat, or you can, you know, just come online now, or unmute yourself if you don't want to put your camera on, and just ask away. Now is the time. We still have 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, anything was unclear, what we've said, you want us to go back over, please let us know. Take a minute and think about it. But I think it's good if you have questions, to really do mention them now, because I think that's the opportunity you get to talk about your program, or things that you're facing, your struggles right now of creating that program, or where are you at the moment? Yeah. Okay. No question from Miriam. That's okay. Anybody else?
Can I just ask generally, because it's quite important for us to know, I think, where everybody is within this particular sort of kind of development. What is the greatest sort of challenge that some of you are facing when it comes to delivering these sorts of workshops? Has anybody got a view about the kind of challenges that you as a group, or a different, I know you're from all different backgrounds and different areas, but if there is a challenge that you're potentially facing, is there anything out there that really would do that?
Yes, I believe the question in the chat was whether the session is recorded and whether you get access to it in the presentation. I believe so, yes.
One question. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for your presentation. It was really helpful and interesting, and thank you for this. We know these all tools, design thinking, canvas model, and I think that entrepreneurial mindset is very important nowadays, and I can say the most crucial skill for nowadays to survive on the job market also. So could you please tell us more practical issues, how we can develop this entrepreneurial mindset in students besides this canvas model and besides this design thinking and brainstorming? Could you give us more practical exercises how we can develop this mindset in students?
I'm quite happy to have a go at that one for you. From a practical perspective, I think that you have to look at the resources that you have around you within the business community, and share and get that process of sharing insights from the business community directly to the students. If you've got a, if there are pockets of entrepreneurial culture that exist in the region where you are, then I would be reaching out to bring those people into that space. Mentoring has a really powerful impact on helping students to recognize both their potential, but also the potential of what they have, right, in terms of their skills, their own competency. So for me, it starts by breaking down those barriers of communication. So practically, what I would do is I would run an event. I would run a mentoring event in your local region. I would open it up to the local businesses, and I would bring students and businesses together based around sharing entrepreneurial experiences. And I think that that's about people sharing where it's gone wrong and where it's right. So they know that from the point of view of being an entrepreneur, that we don't get it right all the time. That failure and I don't use the word lightly in that respect, but I think, but barriers to success or whatever, they are things that we overcome and the challenges that we face. So go back, run an event, run an event when COVID allows us to run it, or run an online event. Make sure that the people that you're bringing in are willing to share where things have gone wrong and where things have gone right, and start to build that dialogue between business and students. And I think that, to me, is the first practical step of addressing that entrepreneurial culture that we strive to create within the place of, within the space that we're developing. I hope that helps.
Yeah, and also in addition to that, I think also what we have in Studio X, which is a very open plan kind of area. I mean, we're quite fortunate to have that space for us, and create like a co-working environment. So students can get a license to work there. They meet each other outside of workshops, outside of everything. But then also we have books that we bought lots of books that they can rent out or lend out. Not rent. They can take out basically and read. So books like what you can see behind James, they are all featured, similar features. And I think when they start reading also on books like Seth Godin or any of the it doesn't have to be the big books, but like just in general, people who are entrepreneurs writing books, and if they start reading that, I think that also fosters their mindset of getting more into that entrepreneur. Obviously, it comes from a student's perspective. If someone is not interested in that, then you can't really do much about it. But most people they have a kind of a curiosity, and you can also, with little things like a book club or book library, you can foster that as well. Okay. Yeah, that was a big question. Yeah,
I got from Ira, who's talking about, people getting fed up with the fact that it's online and that we're trying to push things into a more truncated format, and what would you leave out? I think inevitably for me, the things that you leave out are the things that don't tap into the creative mindset. I think that creativity is the paramount of this. It's a muscle at the end of the day that we as individuals don't exercise as effectively as perhaps we should. And I think that therefore my focus would be on creativity, on finding ways within that can make it an engaging experience on an online call, for instance, or on that sort of area. I know it's hard, and I'm with you about the fact that people are exhausted by Zoom, they're exhausted by online stuff, and I think that unfortunately it's just one of those facts of life that we've got to work around. But it does mean, I mean, the worst, I can honestly say, the worst of these has been during the summer when we've been through this process and somebody has put together a whole day of Zoom and they've given it everything. They put it all in there. And at the end of it all, they've said, and now we want to do a breakout session in the last part of this particular all-day session on Zoom. And you're absolutely exhausted, going from one image to another image to a bit. and it just kills it. So absolutely making it and chunking it up into smaller bite-sized sections, but focusing in on where ideation and creativity can really come to the fore. I think that's what I would focus on when you're trying to devise and develop these.
Well, it depends, I think, also on the topic that you want to deliver. But for example, the summer boot camp we did in June, that was 2 days online. But how we did it was we focused on one particular topic a day, not mixing it up, not overwhelming. So, and we had some dry topics in there, to be very fair, but we had finances as one topic that we had. And then the next day we had all about marketing and branding. That was a bit more creative. But I think even in the financing, because we started with that one, what we did is we took, so for example, we did 20-minute sessions on explaining what an income statement or a profit loss statement is. We explained what a personal budget is, you know, but always in like 20-minute chunks. So one topic, 20-minute chunk, or 15 even, then a little bit breakout session and exercise, something that gets them thinking. So it's not just the, like I said, the classroom learning of them sitting in front of, like, not being active. So they actually had to engage with us and had to engage and do the exercise. And then they had a break. So always keep breaks, 15-minute breaks whenever you can. So every hour they had they had another break. And then, so we worked our way through to 4 financial topics, I think. Then we had a big lunch break, like I think almost like 2 hours or something. So we let them, you know, get off Zoom, get off the computer and everything. And then in the afternoon, we had a 2-hour session where it wasn't us teaching, isn't it? We explained the game. We had a game where they had to fill out, it's a game. It was around finances, obviously, but we kind of tried to keep it interactive. We always had one person who had to pick a number, and then there was a scenario behind it, and then that affected your balance sheet or your forecast or whatever we did. So it's that kind of created in a fun way to show them how finances can be, because finances in itself, unfortunately, is one of the drier topics. But we did the same kind of method in the marketing and branding the next day. So again, 20-minute chunks of something learning, 15-20 minutes breakout session, and then 20-minute break, for example. And then that way you split it up and you make it really bite-sized learning and as creative as you can. And yes, if you have the topic of idea creation or creativity or problem solving or some sort, then yeah, definitely keep it in that creative headspace and anything to engage them. So get away from you talking and nobody interacting. So you have to get into the space of actually finding ways to pick on someone and say, well, not in the mean way, but like I said, we explained that everybody had to pick a number and kind of worked our way through the challenge that way. And we had really good feedback from that. So that worked really well.
Okay. So one of the things that the question was out there is also about, you know, running, a program that is online. And I think in terms of the challenge with all of that is engagement and keeping people engaged. And if there is a way that you can build some form of, and I do hate this word, but gamification into your programs in order that you can drive engagement, that does help. Now, Magda and I are in a business together, which primarily is about challenges and about how we deliver challenges both to university students, but also to the wider business community, and how we use those as a practice ground for businesses to learn those relevant skills. And one of the big cornerstones of the platform that we're working with is gamification, is how you build something in there that gets people working competitively to solve and grow and to do that as well. So I think that when you're designing your program, whether it's a pre-acceleration program, whether it's an acceleration program or accelerator program in its entirety, there is an important part about milestones, about rewarding, and about keeping people engaged through that process, and having something at the end, like Magda was saying at the beginning, where you've got some idea at the end about some reward structure for staying engaged. It is one of the hardest challenges when you're trying to do this online, is to keep people physically, well, mentally alert to the ideas, but also to come back the next week. But if you actually give them that opportunity to come together in teams, to actually start to feel like they're working towards something along that, giving it a competitive edge, giving it some mechanism to reward them as they develop and work through the program, that can actually keep them focused, engaged, and being a part of what you're trying to deliver. So I hope that that bit of advice kind of helps.
Yeah. Cool. Are there any other last minute questions?
So I have one question.
Yeah.
Can I ask? Hi everyone, I'm Irakli from Kyrgyzstan University, and so we are struggling against the problem which is the following. So we got 9 schools, 9 different schools. I mean, the School of Law, School of Business, School of Technology. And these schools, we would like to hold one hackathon for these schools. And, but we have some problem that for these schools, we need to have 9 titles, 9 contests, like for them, because they are from different fields, right? So, we are struggling for these titles because they can't make prototypes or MVPs because they are online. So how can we solve that problem?
So you mean that you have to create 9 different hackathons for each?
No, yes, kind of. So it must be, the introduction must be one from everyone, but then there must be 9 fields, yeah, nine titles for them.
But why do you need that? I mean, what we do is, it's overarching. So we have, students from any faculty coming to us, because it's kind of it's more overarching to be in an entrepreneurial mindset. It doesn't matter which degree they hold or learning for.
It doesn't matter about the degree, but it matters because so they are from different fields, and we thought that they in different fields there are some different problems. So we would like to solve their problems with their fields.
So one of the things that maybe if you're limiting yourself to the fact that each faculty has one team to solve that particular problem, if that's the way that you're approaching it, then you have an overarching challenge, right? That's based around some form of maybe a global sustainability goal or something like that you can create and focus on, and then you get them to work within the confines of their discipline, right, the area of their expertise, to bring a solution or something to solve that overarching problem. I go with Magda to a degree, where I think that the way these things work better in a lot of respects is when you mix people in and you bring different faculties together and you bring different concepts together, because what you're saying to people is that in the real world, in the world of the entrepreneur, right, we're not working just in a company that's got a load of creatives. We've got a company that are technically, savvy, financially savvy, creatives, whatever, and that's how we build teams to solve the overarching problem. But if you are saying that you want to limit it so that you've got a business school faculty that are literally focused on the same thing, I think you create an overarching problem, and then you basically create some form of gamification and offsetting feature that says, okay, you've got nine teams that have to bring their skill sets to solving that particular one problem, so that you've got something that you can measure their performance against, but ultimately they're utilizing their skills and their collective skills to bring some piece of technology, some insight, something to that particular situation.
And I think UN sustainability goals, we use them all the time. They work really, really well because they are so broad and so overarching that you can use them.
Thank you very much.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just ask what platform you got. Are you using an external platform to manage this process, or
We use Teams.
Oh, okay. Right.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's it for today. I believe you have your next session next week. So thank you everyone for participating, for asking your questions. If there are any questions after this, you can reach us at, I should have done a slide with our contact details, our startups@essex.ac.uk. I might just put it in the chat. So if you do have questions, startups@essex.ac.uk, just drop us a note and we will come back to you.
Yeah, and I hope we found that of use. And like Magda said, do stay in contact, and we'll be very happy to support you. And I think I'm on the call next week as well, so I'll catch up with you again then.
I won't be.
Thank you very
But
much.
have a wonderful week, and yeah, see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.